After a car accident landed me in the hospital, I decided to mess with my boyfriend. Who are you? I asked, watching Luke freeze. I almost laughed, until he suddenly pointed at his best friend, Julian. I'm just your boyfriend's brother, Luke said flatly. He's your boyfriend. Julian, my smile died. But Julian stepped forward without missing a beat. Yeah, I'm your man. So I played along, flashing a sweet, dangerous smile. Then take me home. Julian brought me home. He said I had always lived here. I looked around at the spotless place, devoid of any trace of my life, and nodded like a blind woman playing along. I lay in his bed for a while to rest, then got up to find some water. But from the living room, I heard a voice message playing. Julian, help your bro out and pretend to be Nicole's boyfriend for a while. Aren't you afraid she might suddenly regain her memory? If she does and gets mad, I'll coax her back. She loves me too much to truly leave me. Honestly, I've grown tired of her over the years. This is a great chance to breathe and have some fun on the side. So, you really hooked up with that Natalie girl, huh? Now you're just trying to use this as an excuse to hang out with her. You get it. But I definitely love Nicole more. While she's with you, just don't touch her, alright? I trust you most, man. You don't even like her, anyway. Barefoot, I backed away from the door, then deliberately made some noise and walked into the living room. Julian heard the sound and quickly shut off his phone, rising to meet me. The floor's cold. Why aren't you wearing shoes? He rushed over, scooped me into his arms, and carried me to the couch. I'm thirsty, I said, glancing around but unsure where to find water. I'll get it. He went to the water dispenser and returned with a glass. Sitting beside me, he looked at me carefully. Anywhere else feeling uncomfortable? I shook my head as I drank. He gently brushed aside my messy hair and leaned in to kiss my forehead. My eyes froze. Just now, I'd clearly heard Luke warn him not to touch me. I, too, had always believed Julian didn't like me. But now, when his lips moved toward mine, I turned my face away. He calmly stroked my cheek. You don't remember. It's okay. We'll take it slow, you'll get used to me again. Julian, it seemed, was also betraying his own brother. When Julian brought me to the private booth, the room was already lively. A group of young elites from Beijing's upper circle all went quiet when they saw me, their eyes turning to Luke. Wow, Nicole's here. Do you still remember me? I'm your college roommate, Natalie, the girl beside Luke greeted me cheerfully. Julian guided me to sit down. I looked at her and shook my head. Sorry, I don't. That's okay. We can all get to know each other again. As Natalie spoke, she wrapped her arm around Luke's and leaned on his shoulder intimately. This former roommate, who used to be my friend, now thought I'd lost my memory and flaunted her closeness with Luke like a silent declaration of ownership. Luke, for his part, seemed to enjoy the thrill of acting intimate with another woman right in front of me. Isn't it great? Someone chimed in. You two besties' boyfriends are both in the same circle. You can hang out all the time, memory or no memory. The others joined in with knowing smiles, their words laced with malicious amusement, like they were enjoying the joke of making a clueless woman wear a green hat. Then came the games. Luke and Natalie were made to eat the same biscuit from either end, their mouths got closer and closer. Kiss, kiss, everyone chanted. In that raucous mood, Luke and Natalie kissed deeply. Afterward, Natalie leaned into Luke's arms with a bashful smile and shot me a smug glance. Luke pulled her close with satisfaction. Then, I lost a game and had to accept a punishment, choose someone to kiss for 30 seconds. Everyone went silent, watching me. They were all wondering, who would I pick? Would I instinctively point to Luke? He seemed a little nervous, his eyes avoiding mine, not wanting me to react on instinct so soon. Julian, beside me, was tense too. I smiled. Of course, I choose my boyfriend. I turned to Julian. Shall we? I could visibly see him relax. He looked at me steadily and leaned in. I took the initiative, wrapping my arms around his neck and kissing him. Whoa! A wave of surprised exclamations erupted. They had seen Luke kiss other women before, but none of them expected I would kiss another man like this. The excitement turned to stunned silence. Julian kissed me without holding back, chasing after my lips. After 30 seconds, I pulled away, only to see Luke's face dark and brooding. So that's why everyone had fallen silent. How ridiculous. Julian gently wiped the moisture from the corner of my lips. What's going on, everyone? Didn't I accept the punishment? I asked innocently, breaking the awkward silence. Nicole may have amnesia, but she sure isn't shy around her boyfriend, Natalie sneered, clearly mocking me for being gullible. Luke's expression grew darker. I went to the restroom outside, only to overhear voices coming from the stairwell. Julian, I told you not to touch her. That was a low blow just now, Luke said coldly. It's just a game. She's lost her memory. Should I have let her pick you? Who's got another woman hanging off your arm? Come on. I'm the boyfriend you appointed, remember? Julian replied with a smirk. Luke went quiet. Fine. Just keep your distance. I don't believe you'd really sleep with her, but you'd better avoid getting too close. I wouldn't be able to stomach it. And I'd feel bad for you too, right? Heh. You know me too well. Back at Julian's villa. Just as I was about to enter the room, he grabbed my wrist. And without a word, leaned down and kissed me. I tried to pull away, but he held me firmly. After a long moment, he finally let go, gently caressing my face. Today we took a step forward, didn't we? He whispered. We can start to get closer. Little by little. I stared at him, stunned. Once again, he seemed to be doing the exact opposite of what he promised his brother. I didn't understand him at all. Luke and I came from completely different worlds. It had taken him a long time and a lot of effort to win me over. Later on, I met some of his friends, wealthy young heirs from elite circles in Beijing, especially Julian. Julian disliked me. He looked down on me. In fact, that opinion was practically a consensus within their group. He always made sarcastic comments about my relationship with Luke. I used to avoid him whenever I could. But after my amnesia, after Luke forcibly paired us together, Julian began taking advantage of the situation, again and again. Was it his way of getting back at Luke for pushing me toward him? My job as a designer gave me a lot of flexibility, so I often worked from home. One evening, Julian knocked on my door. Long day, huh? There's a fireworks show tonight, let's go watch. We arrived at the lakeside where the fireworks would be launched. Luke and Natalie were already standing in the best spot, watching the grand show unfold. Natalie, thrilled, jumped up and planted a kiss on Luke's cheek. She looked so adorably pleased with herself. Luke smiled at her, playfully flicking her nose. Then he turned, and saw us. For a split second, he stiffened with panic, then quickly masked it with a nonchalant expression. Natalie also spotted us. Oh, you're here. Nicole, perfect timing. Can you take a few pictures of me and Luke? She trotted over and handed me her phone. Luke's face twitched as he glanced at me again. I'm really so happy today, Natalie said, returning to Luke's side and gazing at him with affection. This fireworks show was all planned by Luke. I want to remember this moment forever. Luke's expression softened. He gently pulled her into his arms. My hand froze as I held Natalie's phone. So tonight's grand fireworks display was actually for Natalie. I stared at the screen, capturing the image of them holding each other close. Luke embraced Natalie tenderly. She leaned into his chest with a blissful, satisfied smile. Behind them, fireworks bloomed across the sky, beautiful and romantic. I quietly took the pictures for them. Once, on my birthday, Luke had filled the lake with fireworks too. Natalie had offered to take photos of us back then. I had probably smiled just as happily as she did now. I remembered how Natalie had looked at us that day and said wistfully, I'm so jealous of you too. I really hope I'll find someone who treats me like that someday. Back then, I comforted her and told her she would. Well, she did. Julian took the phone from my hand. That's enough. You're not here to be their personal photographer. He tossed the phone back. Luke caught it and handed it to Natalie. After the fireworks, Natalie and I went to the restroom. It was too crowded, so I decided not to go in. As I headed back, I overheard a conversation nearby between two familiar voices. You seem to be having a great time with Natalie, Julian said. Haven't had this much fun since Nicole Perry, right? Yeah, Luke admitted. Being with Natalie lately feels like how it used to be with Nicole. But Natalie's even sweeter, more obedient, more caring. It's just easy and pleasant. Then why not go with it? Natalie clearly suits you better. Didn't you always complain about Nicole being too stubborn and hard to handle? Julian added. Julian. Nicole and I have been together for years. It's not something I can just walk away from. Natalie doesn't even expect a future from you. She told me she's content just enjoying the moment. Silly girl, Luke said with a sigh. Julian let out a dry chuckle. Heh. When we returned to the villa, Julian suddenly pulled me into a kiss. Then he loosened his hold a little, looked into my eyes, and said seriously, Nicole Perry, do you know something? You're the best version of yourself. There's no need to compare you to anyone else. I stared at him in a daze, as if those words were meant to counter what Luke had said earlier, comparing me to Natalie. How? How did he know me so well? He remembered all the little things Luke had long forgotten, what candies I liked, what food I loved, which movies made me cry. And just like that, he took one more step closer. I didn't push him away. He stood still, stunned for a moment, then suddenly swept me into his arms and carried me into his room. Luke had been the only man I'd ever had. When he first courted me, I didn't trust him at all. But his sincerity, his persistence, the way he treated my grandmother, and the help he offered me in secret, had gradually softened my heart. Later, when his parents disapproved and cut off his financial support, I thought it was the beginning of the end for us. But he didn't give up. Instead, he worked part-time jobs while studying with me, side by side. Eventually, even his parents gave in. We were truly together after that. When my beloved grandmother passed away, Luke held me tightly in his arms and told me I still had him. That he would always be by my side. Such a deeply rooted love, now unrecognizable. If that's the case, then maybe it's time to learn how to love someone new. That Friday, we all headed to a resort for the weekend. When it came time to assign rooms, Luke looked visibly upset. He pulled Julian aside. "You two aren't actually planning to share a room, right? Separate rooms, please." "It's just a room," Julian replied coolly. "You know I can't stand her, what are you so worried about?" I appeared suddenly, and Luke's expression turned even darker. The words he was about to say were swallowed back down. The next morning, with a face like thunder, Luke pulled Julian aside. I happened to be on the upstairs balcony when I overheard their voices below. "Did you sleep with her last night?" Luke demanded angrily. Julian snorted. "Don't tell me you skipped cuddling your sweet little girlfriend just to eavesdrop under our window. That's messed up, Luke. Are you seriously that perverted?" "Julian, are you trying to dodge the question?" Luke snapped. "I've had enough. I don't need you to keep pretending to be Nicole's boyfriend." Julian chuckled coldly. "Oh? Then what's your plan? Tell her that you're the real boyfriend? Tell her that you wanted to mess around with her friend, so you lied and made me play the role? Go ahead. Do you dare say that to her face?" Luke choked on his words. Julian leaned in, voice calm but biting. "And what about your new girlfriend? Don't you like her? She's just over there, isn't she?" "I told you from the beginning, Natalie and I are just temporary," Luke said defensively. "I never planned to give up on Nicole. She loves me too. She'll eventually recover her memory, and when she does, I'll apologize properly. I'll propose to her. I'll swear she'll be the only woman in my life, and she'll definitely forgive me." "And yet, you let your so-called brother sleep with her?" Julian's voice was sharp with disdain. "Didn't you always say you hated her?" "Ha," Julian sneered, "when did I ever say I hated her? Weren't those always your words?" Luke clenched his fists and glared. "I can't believe you, my best friend. You've dug such a deep hole for me. You've been hiding your disgusting feelings for Nicole all this time, just waiting for a chance like this to take her for yourself." Julian replied evenly, "Luke, you brought this on yourself. You were the one who said, 'He's your boyfriend now.'" Luke's face twisted with panic and regret. Julian continued, "Now that Nicole and I have already crossed that line, and you claim to like Natalie so much, why not just roll with it, like I said before? When Nicole gets her memory back, there'll be no need for you to grovel. I'll be the one to ask for forgiveness. Wouldn't that make everyone happy?" Luke let out a bitter laugh. "I don't care what happened between you and Nicole. If anything, it might even make it easier for her to forgive me. I'm ending things with Natalie, and I'll do everything I can to make things right. I want to see for myself who Nicole will choose in the end." I sat upstairs, idly playing with the soil in a flower pot. When I suddenly noticed Natalie, hiding behind the wall below, eavesdropping on their entire conversation. The moment she heard Luke's words, she turned pale and ran off in a panic. That afternoon, while the men were fishing, Natalie suddenly called out to me. "Nicole, let's go pick some grapes. It looks so fun." I looked at her meaningfully, smiled, and followed along. In the vineyard, she suddenly handed me her phone. "Nicole, let me show you something." I took the phone from her and looked. "There are quite a few photos, you can take your time going through them." "I snapped these from Luke's phone," she added, sarcasm laced in her voice. On the screen were dozens of intimate photos of me and Luke. Us kissing, cuddling, even pictures taken in bed. From our school days to the present. I handed the phone back and looked at her calmly. "What are you trying to say?" She was momentarily stunned, then gave a cold laugh. "What do I mean? Luke says you're Julian's girlfriend, but look at these. All these intimate pictures, spanning years, what do you think they mean?" "Oh, but everyone says Julian is my boyfriend," I said evenly. "Nicole, are you really that stupid? You can't see what's going on from these photos? Luke's been lying to you. Your boyfriend has always been Luke, not Julian. Luke just used your memory loss as an excuse. He didn't want to keep playing the boyfriend role, so he had Julian pretend to be your lover while he went off to have his fun. And Julian went along with it. They both fooled you. You've been spinning in their game like a joke. Everyone's been laughing behind your back. I'm telling you this because I'm your friend. I couldn't just watch anymore." Natalie spilled everything, word by word, frustration bubbling over. But my expression didn't change. She stared at me in disbelief. I remained calm. I smiled lightly. So? What exactly is wrong with my situation right now? Is Julian treating me badly? Is he worse than Luke used to be? Her eyes widened in shock. You knew all this and you're still this calm? Then something seemed to dawn on her. You didn't lose your memory at all, did you? I popped a grape into my mouth, twirling the stem between my fingers. Ah, you found me out. But as a friend, you won't tell, right? You. She looked utterly stunned. You never lost your memory. And yet you're still with Julian? Nicole. I can't believe you hid it so well. I'm going to tell Luke. I'm going to tell Julian. That you've been lying to them this whole time. I ate another grape, smiling at her as if amused. Are you sure you want to do that? You think you'll still have a place beside Luke if everything comes out? She hesitated. Her expression flickered with panic. Clearly remembering Luke's words that morning about ending things with her. Then she huffed. If I tell Luke that you faked your memory loss? That you deceived him and slept with Julian on purpose, do you think he'll still want you? Wouldn't that just push him closer to me? Oh, sorry, I said sweetly. I can't ruin the image I've built in front of them all these years. I'll just tell him, with tears in my eyes, that I was heartbroken after being lied to and abandoned by Luke. And that I only fell into Julian's arms because I was hurting. I smiled at her calmly. So tell me, what's more believable? That I lied to deceive him, or that I was broken-hearted and vulnerable? Will he feel more guilty for me? Or simply toss me aside? After all, she had just overheard Luke saying he didn't care that I had slept with Julian. Huh. Natalie stared at me, visibly shaken. She stepped back a little, looking at me as if seeing me for the first time. Nicole. I didn't expect this. I never knew this was the real you. You're nothing like the version of you I always saw. Oh? What was I like before? I asked, amused. Natalie, you worked so hard to become my friend. You did everything you could to get close to Luke. You know very well what your intentions were. So why act so shocked when you realize I had mine too? Her expression turned stiff. I really do love Luke. But you've been faking everything. You knew the truth, yet you still slept with Julian. You're nothing like what everyone thinks, brave, kind, sincere, devoted to Luke. You never truly loved him. I laughed. Who says I didn't love Luke? It's ironic, isn't it? If he hadn't pushed me toward Julian, I would have continued loving him all along. Did I ever betray him the way he betrayed me? I looked at her with curiosity. Why are you acting so righteous toward me? If Luke had nothing, no status, no wealth, would you still dare claim you loved him sincerely? Ha! Natalie's face turned pale, then flushed. You. Nicole, you're terrifying. Me? I'm the terrifying one? Not the man who pushed his girlfriend into another man's arms? Not the man who cheated on his girlfriend with her friend? I smiled. Natalie, you should be grateful. Between Julian and Luke, I only intend to hold on to one of them. I have no interest in fighting with you. To me, Luke is already tainted. If you want him, go ahead, use your skills to keep him. I won't ruin it for you. You can rest easy. Natalie trembled as she stared at me. So, Nicole, you don't love Luke or Julian. You just want to latch onto someone rich. Whether it's Luke or Julian. As long as they can give you a good life, you'll take either one of them. I sighed, a trace of impatience in my voice. I already said I loved Luke. But look what I got in return. Why should I keep loving a man like that? And Julian? He deceived me too. Why should I give him all my heart? The only difference is, compared to Luke, Julian doesn't seem quite as filthy in my eyes. As long as he treats me well and gives me what I want, I'll treat him well in return. Natalie narrowed her eyes. And you're so sure you can control Julian? He's known in their circle as the most unpredictable, most dangerous one of them all. I played with the grape in my hand, then said lightly, you rely on your wits, I rely on mine. You and I both know what it means to live through hardship. Whatever you choose to do, that's up to you. If Natalie didn't come after me, I wouldn't bother her. But if she couldn't let go and once again treated me like an enemy. Just then, I sensed a shadow beyond the vineyard, as if someone were secretly listening. I turned to look, but all I saw was a branch rustling. Natalie and I carried our grape baskets out of the vineyard. Julian walked toward us, took my basket gently from my hand, and said warmly, you were gone so long, I was starting to worry. He wrapped an arm around me and led me back toward the guest house. Natalie looked at me, then at the man by my side, as if wondering why he treated me this way. Luke came over too, but not to find Natalie. Instead, he glared coldly at Julian. I glanced at him with my usual detached curiosity. Suddenly, Luke stepped forward. Nicole, there's a natural horse ranch nearby. You said you wanted to go riding sometime. Let me take you later. I looked up at Julian. I said I wanted to ride horses. Julian smiled faintly. Then I'll take you. All right, let's wash the grapes first, I replied casually, letting Julian lead me away. Luke stood there stiffly. Behind me, I could feel Natalie's envious eyes drilling into my back. Later, Julian and I sat at a table together. I peeled a grape, noticing his gaze on me. It felt strangely intense. I looked up, only to find him smiling at me softly, his eyes warm and steady. I laughed and fed him a grape. He took it into his mouth, then caught my fingers gently, almost obsessively licking the juice off as if he wanted every last drop. Ever since our relationship became physical, he could slip into flirtation at any moment. Later that afternoon, we got geared up and headed to the horse ranch. Some of the other rich young men were already riding. Luke and Natalie were still near the stables. Natalie was excitedly discussing which horse to choose, while Luke looked distracted. Natalie, I need to talk to you, he suddenly said. Natalie seemed startled, she clearly knew what was coming. Then she saw us approaching and hurriedly called out, "Oh, Nicole, you're here." We walked over. "Did you pick your horse yet?" I asked with a smile. Julian was speaking to the ranch staff, instructing them to pick a calm, pretty horse that would suit my height and riding ability. He and I rode together for a while. Then, from the distance, I heard shouting. "Luke, watch out!" Natalie. Ah! A horse, no one knew when it had gotten loose, charged straight toward Luke. Natalie, without a second thought for her own safety, tried to ride out and block it. She was hit and thrown from her horse. Luke immediately rushed her to the resort's medical station. The ranch staff muttered among themselves, puzzled by the incident. They didn't understand why Natalie had rushed to intercept. All the other riders had managed to steer clear. Given Luke's riding skill, he could have dodged easily. And even if he hadn't, he was sitting firm in the saddle, holding the reins steady. There was no way he would have been thrown. Compared to Natalie, who hadn't even sat properly before racing in sideways to block the horse. The impact was far too great. It was no surprise she was thrown. If anything went wrong, the blame might fall on their ranch for no good reason. Of course, Luke didn't hear any of this. Natalie was later transferred to a hospital in the city. The doctor said she'd be in a wheelchair for a few months. As Julian and I returned to the villa, I couldn't help but comment, Natalie really doesn't hold back when it comes to hurting herself. We'd see whether the sacrifice would get her what she wanted. That night, as Julian held me in bed, he whispered, "If I were ever in danger, I wouldn't want you to risk your life to save me. I'd rather you be safe." I looked up at him. Was he giving himself an out in advance? Like he already knew I wouldn't risk myself for him? "If you were in danger," he added seriously, "I'd throw everything aside for you." I chuckled and gently stroked his face. "We'll both be just fine. There won't be any danger." He took the hand I had on his cheek, kissed my fingertips, and leaned in again. Lately, Luke had been spending a lot of time at the hospital. Natalie was constantly posting to her social media photos of flowers Luke brought her, food he prepared, and how attentively he cared for her. It all looked so happy. But I wasn't doing too badly either. I've said before, I loved Luke. So whenever I saw him handing me off to Julian so easily, it still affected me emotionally. Recently, I hadn't seen much of him. But, some things, it seems, have a way of catching up to you. One of my interior design submissions had won an award. It was a project I had submitted months ago. Back then, I had told Luke, "You have to come to the ceremony, okay? If I win, I want to share the joy with you first." He had said something like, "That day's one of my buddy's birthdays, we'll see." But today, he came. I stepped on stage to receive my award and give my speech. Then I walked down, toward the direction where he stood, watching. Luke took an emotional step forward. But I ran past him, straight into the arms of the man holding my favorite flowers, arms wide open. Julian lifted me and spun me around twice, kissing my cheek. "Nicole, you're the best." Luke stood motionless, eyes burning red, fists clenched tightly as he stared at us. On my grandmother's death anniversary, Julian and I arrived at the cemetery. Only to find Luke was already there. He looked at me gently as I approached. I cleaned everything up around Grandma's headstone. "Oh. Thank you," I said politely. Turning to Julian, I added, "Be sure to thank your brother properly." Julian nodded. "Of course. I'll throw a big dinner for my good brother." He placed flowers before the grave. "But actually, I already came yesterday to clean up. So in the future, there's no need to trouble my dear brother again." Julian and I knelt together and paid our respects. I whispered to Grandma, telling her Julian treated me well, that I was happy, she could rest easy. Luke stood nearby, fists trembling as he watched us pray together. I knew Julian had once stopped Luke from telling me the truth. He'd asked him, "Do you really think if you tell her now, before she regains her memory, when she feels nothing for you, that she'll accept your lies? Or will she hate you more than ever?" Luke had been afraid. But after all these days of being treated like a stranger, ignored completely by me, he couldn't take it anymore. He blocked me on my way home from work. "Nicole." He gazed at me with deep emotion, like he hadn't been allowed to look at me this freely for a long time. I frowned. "Luke, what is it?" "Nicole, I've already ended things with Natalie," he blurted, stepping forward. I immediately stepped back. "And what's that got to do with me?" "I just wanted you to know. Natalie and it was a mistake. She was the one who kept approaching me." He spoke quickly, desperate. "I realized my mistake and corrected it in time." I frowned deeper. "You don't need to tell me any of this. I was planning to wait until you got your memory back," he said, voice shaky, "but I can't wait anymore. Nicole. The truth is, your real boyfriend is." "Luke," I interrupted coldly, "you really don't need to come here with all this nonsense. Isn't Julian your good brother?" "Julian is no longer my brother." Luke shouted angrily. He stole you from me on purpose." I narrowed my eyes. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Please don't act like this." Just as I was thinking of a way to walk away, I spotted Julian's car pulling up. "Julian." I ran toward him. Julian quickly got out, walked over, and pulled me into his arms. I clung to him as if frightened, pressing close. He held me tightly and glared at Luke. "Luke, what kind of madness are you trying to pull now?" "Julian." Luke growled, stepping forward, fists clenched, burning with rage. "Luke, do you think throwing a tantrum will get you what you want?" Julian said sharply. "The only reason you're still allowed near Nicole is because she doesn't know the real you. But if you keep acting like this, she'll hide from you forever. And I'll make sure she never has to see you again. If it comes to that, our friendship, our social circle, let it all fall apart." Julian's tone was heavy, threatening, and full of warning. Luke was stunned. He understood what Julian meant. If Luke confessed the truth, I'd react accordingly. And if he kept pushing, Julian would burn it all down. Luke wouldn't even get the chance to see me again. As Luke stood there with bloodshot eyes, Julian led me into the car and drove us away. I turned my head to look at him. Lately, I couldn't help feeling. He was walking exactly along the path I'd silently laid out. It was like he already knew what I wanted from him. But how could he? I was just a woman who had lost her memory. Natalie asked to meet. She told me she had finally given up for good. That once her leg healed, she would leave the city. She said I didn't need to worry about her revealing the truth anymore. In other words, a veiled threat. If I didn't show up, she just might speak out. I met her at the lakeside. She was seated on a bench, still in a wheelchair. Still playing the wheelchair card? I approached. "You're really leaving?" She smiled faintly and gestured for me to sit. "What's the point of staying? I gain nothing, only heartache. But I truly loved Luke." I shrugged and sat down beside her. "I hope you'll find peace." She looked at me with a strange expression. "I really admire you. You've managed to make both Luke and Julian fall for you." I raised an eyebrow. "You're not secretly recording this, are you?" She froze, then laughed, pulling a recorder out of her pocket and handing it over. "You're sharp." I turned it off and returned it to her. "You don't have to make it sound so magical. Luke loved me? And yet he betrayed me. Julian? Who knows what he'll be like in the future?" I added mockingly. She stared at me. "I used to think you approached everything with sincerity and goodness. Now, I see you approach everything with caution and calculation." I frowned. "You don't need to look at me like I'm some monster. I just love myself before I love others. That's not so hard to understand, is it? But you still ended up with everything. While I got nothing," she murmured with a heartbroken expression. "Then why not think differently?" I said. "Stop obsessing over this so-called love. With what you've done for Luke, getting a generous payout for the rest of your life shouldn't be that hard." She looked at me, confused. "Don't you hate me? I was the one who seduced Luke, used being your friend to get close to him. At first, he ignored me. But later, he wanted something new. He'd get angry with you, and I'd be there, gentle, considerate. I told him I didn't want a future, I wouldn't cling, I just wanted to be happy in the moment. And in me, he found the shadow of what you used to be. So he treated me well." I shook my head. "A man who uses a woman and then blames her for seducing him? That's pathetic. When I realized you weren't truly sincere with me, I stopped considering you a real friend. Otherwise, it would have felt like a double betrayal. Since I never saw you as a true friend, and since you haven't really harmed me, what you do has nothing to do with me." The only one who betrayed me was Luke. She let out a bitter laugh. I really do admire you. But, she glanced past me, toward something behind. Then she said, I still hate you, Nicole. Because you got everything I ever dreamed of? And before I could react, she had already pulled a knife from her pocket, stood up, and lunged at me. Ah! I cried out in shock, stumbling backward. But Natalie came at me, slashing again and again with the knife. Are you insane, Natalie? Is it really worth sacrificing the rest of your life for a man? I shouted as I raised my hand to block one of her strikes, only to realize the blade wasn't sharp. It was fake. Nicole! Nicole! Two panicked voices shouted from both sides. Julian and Luke came rushing toward me. Julian shielded me with his body, pulling me into his arms. Luke kicked Natalie hard, sending her sprawling. Ah! Natalie fell to the ground, the fake knife clattering away from her hand. Luke glanced at me to make sure I was safe, then turned back, ready to stomp on her. Stop, Luke! That's enough, the knife is a retractable prop. I shouted quickly. Luke froze in place. Julian, still clutching me tightly, scanned my body anxiously for injuries. Natalie lay on the ground and laughed bitterly. Nicole, after all these years of being your friend, I must have picked up a few tricks, huh? I wouldn't throw away my future for something so petty. What the hell were you trying to do? Luke growled, glaring down at her. Julian, seeing that I was unharmed, turned a cold gaze toward her as well. Tears welled in Natalie's eyes as she looked at Luke, then at Julian, who looked as if he could kill her. Then suddenly, she broke into manic laughter. I sighed. I knew what she was about to do. You two, powerful, privileged heirs of elite families, being completely played by a woman. Natalie sneered, jabbing a finger at me, looking so fragile in Julian's arms. Nicole never lost her memory. Luke staggered back in shock. She told me she loved you, Natalie said, staring at him. You told me that once she got her memory back, she wouldn't be able to leave you. But she never forgot a thing. She chose Julian with full awareness. You know what that means, don't you? It means she didn't love you that much to begin with. She knew you betrayed her, so she immediately found herself a new man. A man who could keep giving her the life she wanted. Natalie laughed mockingly, then turned to Julian. And you, Julian? I really don't get it. How could you fall in love with your brother's woman? She slept with Luke for years. She's not going to love you any more than she did him. The only reason she's with you is because you're just as powerful, just as capable of giving her the best. If you had nothing, do you really think she'd run into your arms? She collapsed back onto the ground, laughing bitterly. You're both pathetic, tearing each other apart over a woman who can discard you at any moment. Shut up! Julian barked, his voice cold and furious. Then he looked down at me, softening. Nicole, let's go home. I looked up at him, he wasn't surprised. His calmness caught me off guard again. Heh, Luke, Natalie sneered. Go on, I dare you to ask her, ask Nicole yourself, did she ever lose her memory? Luke stood frozen, trembling in a daze, overwhelmed by fear and confusion. Because after Natalie's outburst, and my silence, something had already been exposed. He was terrified to face the truth. Because if it was true, it meant I never loved him, and I had willingly chosen Julian. Nicole, let's leave this place, Julian said firmly, still holding me close. I looked at Luke, shaken, trembling, trying to avoid the truth. I didn't move. Yes, I said quietly, I never lost my memory. Luke staggered, turning to me with trembling eyes. Julian only lowered his gaze, unsurprised. Natalie, still on the ground, began to laugh again, tears running down her cheeks. I looked at Luke and said softly, if you had just waited one more second that day, I would have laughed and told you I was teasing you. But you didn't wait, not even a second. You instantly denied our relationship and handed me over to Julian. Luke took a trembling step back, shaking his head in panic. Nicole, I was still giving you chances, hoping you'd realize your mistake. But you let another man become my boyfriend. You let another man care for me. You openly wrapped your arms around Natalie in front of me. You kissed her right where I could see. You lit fireworks for her, you looked at her the same way you once looked at me. That's when I finally gave up on you. Luke trembled harder, his voice broken. Angie. Nicole, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He stepped forward, shaking. I know I was wrong. I truly regret it. Nicole, I just lost my way for a moment. Julian held me even tighter, eyes dark and alert, guarding me like I was sacred, making it clear he'd never let Luke get near me again. I swear I know I was wrong, Luke choked, tears pooling in his eyes. It's always been you. You're the one I've always wanted to marry. His hands trembled as he pulled something from his pocket. I've had our rings ready for a long time. I was going to propose the moment you got your memory back, beg you to forgive me. I was going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you, giving you everything you wanted. He opened the ring box, holding out the ring with shaking hands. Nicole, I really love you. Please, forgive me. I know you still love me. You used to love me so much, we loved each other so deeply. Please, Nicole, give me a chance. Let me make things right. Luke. Julian suddenly raised a hand and knocked the ring from his fingers. Don't you get it yet? The moment you betrayed Nicole, you lost her. A man as filthy as you, what right do you have to ask for forgiveness? You're the one who pushed Nicole toward me. And now, she's mine. You'll never get another chance. I was stunned, looking up at Julian. Why would he say something like filthy? That wasn't something one man would normally say to another. Except, I had once said something very similar to Natalie. In the vineyard. I froze, just for a moment. No, it can't be. Luke scrambled to pick the ring back up, his hands trembling. No, Nicole loved me so much, she used to love me so much. She used to spoon-feed me porridge and medicine mouth-to-mouth when I had a fever. When I rushed back in the middle of a storm and didn't arrive until morning, she waited for me all night on the sofa. When she thought I'd been in a car accident and found out it was only a minor injury, she cried tears of joy and threw herself into my arms. She clung to me the entire night. She once said, with me by her side, she was truly happy. She said lying in my arms made her feel safe and warm. She loved me, she really loved me. She couldn't possibly let me go. He stood there, trembling, tears falling as he tried to convince himself, refusing to accept the truth, drowning in regret. Natalie lay collapsed nearby, watching him. It was unclear whether the look on her face was bitter satisfaction or heartbreaking sorrow. Luke, I said softly, I once loved you too. But not anymore. Then I turned and let Julian lead me away. Nicole. Luke's voice rang out behind me, raw, hoarse, and filled with hopelessness. He knew. He had lost me for good. There were no more chances. Julian brought me home. He carefully checked me over to make sure I hadn't been hurt. I let him. Then he held me close and kissed me gently. Nicole, he whispered, I love you, no matter what version of you. I love you all the same. I won't ask for all your love. As long as you can love me the way you once loved Luke, that will be enough for me. I'll stay loyal. I'll stay clean. I'll give you everything I have. His voice was so gentle, and then he took out a ring, luxurious, elegant, and clasped my hand so tightly, so seriously, with such nervous anticipation. I blinked, stunned, then looked up at him, the answer becoming clear. You, that day at the vineyard, you heard my conversation with Natalie, didn't you? He nodded silently. I laughed. So the mantis stalks the cicada, but the oriole is watching from behind. I relaxed my fingers, allowing his trembling hands to slip the ring onto mine. And then he kissed it, kissed my hand reverently. One day, I said softly, paint me a portrait. Right in front of me. He froze, then pulled me tightly into his arms. Okay. After Julian brought me home, everything he did said it loud and clear, he didn't hate me. He liked me. He only said all those bitter things before, because I had once been in Luke's arms. But how much did he truly like me? I wasn't sure. Would he stop cherishing me once he had me? I wasn't sure either. Until, one day, in his study, I found them. Sketches. Countless pencil drawings of me. He had drawn me over and over, purely from memory and imagination, every expression, every smile, every subtle gesture. Through his pencil, he had poured out so much love, bold and unrestrained. That's when I realized. He had been secretly in love with me for a long, long time. And now, he finally had the chance to have me. Unlike Luke, he was clean. That day, I found out, I was the only woman he'd ever had. And that was enough. I would love him too. He held me tightly, voice trembling with emotion as he whispered, I've loved you since that day so long ago. When I was at Luke's house, you mistook me for him and suddenly jumped out from behind the couch to hug me. You wrapped your arms around me, and whispered softly into my ear, Good morning. As he held me close, I finally smiled. Not because I'd forgotten the past. But because, this time, I chose my future.